Hello and welcome. Here's what's happening right now. Jury dismissed in the hockey sex assault trial.
We have to see justice be done, not just justice being done, but seen to be done.
Juror versus defense. What a note to the judge says. Calls for sweeping cutbacks to avert another postal strike.
Maybe if we all just didn't buy gas for a day or two, we could bring it down.
What's driving up frustration and the price at the pump.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
A major turn of events in the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players. The trial is now proceeding before a judge alone after discharging the jury for a second time. It comes after a juror submitted a note with concerns about the alleged actions of one of the defense teams. CTV's Adrian Ghobrial is outside the courthouse in London, Ontario tonight. And Adrian, walk us through what happened.
Yeah, Heather, this is another shocking turn of events for this case. Today, the judge, as you just mentioned, released the jury after a juror claims that multiple members of defense counsel were acting unprofessionally and laughing at them. And we can now share that this is the second jury to be dismissed following a mistrial last month.
As protesters shouted for justice, former World Junior hockey champion Alex Fermenton walked into court this morning, flanked by his defense counsel, Daniel Brown and Hilary Dudding. And it's this legal team whose alleged actions have led to not one, but 2 juries being dismissed from this trial. Yesterday, Justice Carosilla was handed a note from a juror. In the absence of the jury, the judge read the note out to the courtroom, which read, "Multiple jury members feel we are being judged and made fun of by lawyers Daniel Brown and Hilary Dudding. Every day when we enter the courtroom, they observe us, whisper to each other, and turn to each other and laugh as if they are discussing our appearance. This is unprofessional and unacceptable." Justice Carosilla dismissed the jury this morning without providing a reason for their dismissal. The hearing is now moving forward as a judge-alone trial.
All we were seeing up to this point is justice not being done. So I think that it was important for a judge to say, okay, let's try to move this forward. And if this is a pathway, then let's take it.
A statement released by criminal defense lawyer Daniel Brown today denied the allegations made by the juror, saying in part, no defense counsel would risk alienating a juror, and nothing could be further from the truth in this instance. The very idea of counsel making light of a juror is illogical and runs directly counter to our purpose and function. Brown's associate Hilary Dudding, who's also representing Fermenton, was also involved in allegations that led to a previous jury being dismissed and a mistrial declared last month after a juror at the first trial reported that Dudding spoke to her during the lunch break.
The last thing that we ever want as counsel is to be an integral part of the trial unfolding. You, in fact, want to be invisible.
A young woman who we can only identify as EM claims that an alleged group sexual assault took place inside this London, Ontario hotel in June 2018 following a Hockey Canada gala. Former World Junior Team Canada captain Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Carter Hart, McLeod, and Fermenton have each been charged with sexual assault. McLeod is also facing one charge of being party to the offense.
And the proceedings continue this afternoon as a judge-only trial with former teammate Tyler Steenbergen continuing his testimony. Heather.
All right, Adrian Ghobrial in London, Ontario for us tonight. Major changes could soon be coming to the way you receive mail in this country in the midst of Canada Post's ongoing labor dispute and another potential disruption as early as next week. A new report today recommends phasing out daily door-to-door delivery altogether. CTV's Jeremie Charron is following the story from Ottawa and has the latest for us. Jeremie.
Heather, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers could be back in a legal strike position as of Thursday if the two sides don't strike a deal. And Canada Post earlier this week said it was temporarily pausing negotiations, citing a recent lack of meaningful progress. Now, with just 2 days before workers could be back on the picket line, a report from a federal mediator tasked by the government in December to determine why talks have failed so far was presented to both parties yesterday and made public today. It suggests Canada Post is facing an existential crisis and is effectively insolvent. Among several recommendations made by Commissioner William Kaplan are that Canada Post phase out daily door-to-door mail delivery and establish more community mailboxes, that it should be allowed to close more rural post offices, and that the Crown Corporation should be allowed to hire part-time workers to offer weekend parcel delivery. Canada Post has lost at least $3 billion since 2018 and took a $1 billion federal loan to cover operations this year. Both the union and Canada Post met today with the new Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu to discuss the report's findings. In a statement, the minister urged both parties to reach a deal. Heather?
Jeremie Charron in Ottawa. Gas prices are on the rise in Canada, especially in the Maritimes, where drivers received an unpleasant surprise at the pumps this morning. The higher fuel costs coming just in time for a busy long weekend for many Canadians. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth joins us now with more on why we're seeing the increase. Paul.
Heather, these increases come at a time when gas prices had been dropping consistently in recent weeks. The price of gas is up close to 6 cents per litre in the Maritimes, along with a hike in diesel by as much as 9 cents. No surprise, consumers are not happy.
There's been promises that the gas would be going down or just things would get less expensive in general, and it hasn't really seemed to happen yet.
Well, it is what it is. I got to buy gas, but, I'd rather not. Maybe if we all just didn't buy gas for a day or two, we'd bring it down.
Prices climbing at the pumps is a recent national trend, according to gas analyst Dan McTeague.
For instance, in Toronto, gasoline was $1.32, $1.33 this time last week. Today it's $1.40.
McTeague says even with the elimination of the consumer carbon tax, prices are climbing because of more expensive summer fuel and the anticipation of increased driving in the warmer season, which impacts supply and demand.
It's really that period of time where we can't ignore the obvious. People are going to be taken to the roads. That's one of the main reasons why we've seen a bit of a surge in the price.
The weak Canadian dollar is also a factor.
At one point last week, it took 137 pennies to buy a US dollar. Today, it's 140. That's added about a penny to that 6 or 7 cents that you've seen.
McTeague says this time last year, regular gasoline in Canada was roughly 15 cents per litre more. Prices are on the rise again, but compared to 12 months earlier, the price of gasoline is down considerably. Heather.
Paul Hollingsworth in Halifax. Thanks, Paul. Business leaders from around the world met in Ottawa today to chart a path through a new global tariff reality brought on by Donald Trump. It was also a chance for Canadian and American officials to reset the relationship shaken by months of uncertainty. CTV's Judy Trin is tracking the so-called B7 summit. Who is attending the event, Judy?
Heather, there are about 500 business delegates from G7 nations gathered at this B7 summit. They're focused on finding a solution to this trade war initiated by the U.S. The new U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, was born in the Netherlands, but has Canadian ties.
I had an aunt that her husband sold farm supplies out of Lethbridge, Alberta. I had an uncle that lived in Richmond, B.C.
Corporate leaders from G7 nations clung to his every word, looking for clues about how to do business with Donald Trump's America. Hoekstra hinted defense could be the key.
We also need a peaceful and secure world. It is why America continues to invest significantly in our defense and why we want to partner with you.
Before Hoekstra took the stage, Trump's former UN ambassador offered her thoughts on how to attract American customers.
They don't care what your morals are. They don't care what you believe when you're at home. They just want you to do your business. That's what the American people are saying, and that's kind of what's led us to this point where we are.
Hoekstra didn't talk directly about tariffs, but the B7 business community has identified the development of critical minerals, artificial intelligence, and secure, clean energy as trade priorities.
They also want their leaders to focus on unity.
We want to go for multilateral because that is what's creating the strong growth. Bilateral is never, ever good. It's G7. It's not G6 plus 1.
We are not denying the need for change or defending the status quo, but we are steadfast in our promotion of multilateral collaboration.
The B7 will present its communique to the Government of Canada. It's about 50 pages long with a list of priorities and actions. The group expects it to inform global business policy when G7 leaders meet in Alberta in June. Heather.
Just a few weeks from now. Judy, thank you. Wet and rainy weather is helping crews make progress against deadly wildfires in eastern Manitoba. Residents are being allowed back into a section of the rural municipality of Lac du Bonnet that had been evacuated earlier this week. The fires claimed 2 lives and destroyed 28 homes and cottages in the area. About 20 other fires are burning across Manitoba. 3 weeks after the Vancouver festival attack that claimed 11 lives and forever altered many more, the city is rethinking how it keeps people safe. A preliminary report was released today into safety measures at public events and preventing the worst-case scenario. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson reviewed the report for us. Andrew, what's going to change?
Heather, in the short term, people attending public events are going to notice more safety barriers and an increased police presence after the tragedy the mayor says robbed Vancouver of some of its innocence. They may not have noticed, but runners in this month's Vancouver Marathon were being protected by dozens of new mobile vehicle barriers like these after what happened only a week earlier.
One of the most urgent challenges we now face is how to protect people from the growing threat of vehicles being used to cause harm.
On April 26th, the driver of an SUV plowed through a crowd enjoying the Lapu-Lapu Filipino Festival. 11 people were killed. Several recovering from devastating injuries are still in the hospital. Adam Kaiji Low is facing murder charges. A preliminary report from police and the city released today concludes proper safety procedures ahead of the festival were followed.
The risk assessment would not have warranted heavy barricades.
That's what this moment demands. A rethinking of how we assess risk, how we respond to emerging threats, and how we ensure people, no matter where they are in this city, feel safe gathering in public spaces.
For now, that could also include a police presence at events that previously went without.
Regardless of the cost, if an organizer of a community event feels anxious or nervous and would like presence, we will have presence there.
A final city report into the festival attack and how to rethink safety moving forward in Vancouver is expected this summer, and an independent provincial review next month. Heather?
Andrew Johnson in Vancouver. U.S. President Donald Trump is slamming rocker Bruce Springsteen for speaking out against him overseas.
In my country, they're taking sadistic pleasure in the pain that they inflict on loyal American workers. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation that led to a more just and plural society. They're abandoning our great allies.
The boss blasted Trump during the first show of his latest tour in the UK. Trump fired back online with a variety of insults, calling Springsteen, quote, highly overrated, a dried out old prune, and dumb as a rock. Grammy-winning singer Chris Brown was denied bail in an assault case today, putting his upcoming world tour in limbo.
Don't know when my nights became so complicated.
Brown is facing allegations that he beat a music producer with a bottle at a London nightclub in 2023. The judge ordered he be held in custody until the next hearing on June 13th, the same day he is supposed to perform in Frankfurt. Coming up tonight.
It will take another significant effort to once again eradicate it.
A soaring concern for Alberta's health officials. Plus, the high-stakes beef on a busy Ontario highway. Developing news out of Nova Scotia tonight. The RCMP says it's renewing ground and air search efforts tomorrow for two young siblings. 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack vanished without a trace 2 weeks ago. They were last seen at their rural home in Pictou County, about 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax. The RCMP says they will be searching specific areas Saturday. This follows an extensive search of the woods surrounding the home, which was called off after 6 days. As measles cases soar across Canada, there is concern the country could lose its measles elimination status. The likelihood of prolonged transmission in the next 6 months is moderate to high, putting that status in jeopardy. CTV's Kathy Lee is reporting out of Alberta tonight, where cases are quite high. Kathy.
Heather, there's been a substantial increase in the number of measles cases in Alberta over the last couple of weeks. Today's data shows 29 new cases for a total of 438. Ontario has the highest number of cases in the country, but an infectious disease expert says Alberta has the largest growth in number of cases per capita. The south zone of the province is seeing the highest number of infections, which is an area where the immunization rate is low.
We know there are many pockets within the country that are under-vaccinated. And when measles gets introduced to those pockets, it's going to take off like wildfire. And that's exactly what we've seen.
In 1998, measles was declared eliminated in Canada. Now, according to the Federal Public Health Agency, if the current outbreak keeps growing the way it has been, the country could lose that status by October. One expert believes we are on pace for that happening.
I think it is extremely unlikely at this point that we will see containment of either the outbreak in Ontario or Alberta by the time the fall rolls around. So I think it is very likely Canada will lose this measles exempt status. The reality is, for those of us on the ground, it means measles is here, measles is circulating, and it will take another significant effort to once again eradicate it from Canada.
In Alberta, access to measles vaccines is being expanded across the province. Heather.
Kathy Lee in Calgary. The roads are usually hectic on the Friday of a long weekend, but on one highway north of Toronto, it was utter chaos. Traffic near Aurora, Ontario was slow moving thanks to 4 cows running loose along Highway 400. It's unclear where the wayward animals came from or how they made their way to the highway, but police are doing their best to bring them to safety. Still ahead tonight.
Welcome to Albania.
When heads of states take on a new avatar. A New Jersey man convicted of attempting to murder author Salman Rushdie has been sentenced to 25 years in prison. The author was critically injured and left partially blind after he was stabbed multiple times on stage at a literary event in New York in 2022. Authorities say 27-year-old Hadi Matar was trying to carry out a decades-old fatwa calling for Rushdie's death over his controversial novel Satanic Verses. Matar also faces a trial on terrorism-related charges. Israel launched a large-scale attack inside Gaza today, leaving more than 100 people dead, according to local health officials. There were dozens of airstrikes and black smoke was seen over Gaza this morning. Witnesses say the attack lasted hours, with some areas getting hit while people were sleeping. Israel says it is trying to dismantle terrorist infrastructure. Delegations from Ukraine and Russia met today in Turkey for the first direct talks since the war began 3 years ago. While there was some common ground, Ukraine wants the next negotiations to take place between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky.
I think the next step would be that the leaders level meeting should be organized, and that would be our next step.
Negotiators met for less than 2 hours at a palace in Istanbul. They agreed to each exchange 1,000 prisoners of war. But while Ukraine demanded a ceasefire, Russia says it wants more discussions. The European Union responded with a financial threat against Russia.
And we are ready to do more to bring Putin to the negotiation table. To be very clear again, we want peace. And so we are working on a next set of sanctions.
Ukraine's president and other European leaders came together in Albania for an international summit. And those gathered at that summit got an unusual welcome.
Welcome in Albania. Bine v-am venit în Albania. Piratura must Albania se. Vítejte v Albanii.
The politicians were greeted by baby versions of themselves in an AI-generated video, drawing chuckles and applause as their younger selves said welcome to Albania in their respective languages. After the break, the Oilers bandwagon is picking up speed. Edmonton's playoff push is attracting famous fans from far and wide. The Edmonton Oilers' Stanley Cup quest is briefly on ice as they await the winner of the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars in the conference finals. But their fan base appears to be heating up. CTV's Nicole Lampa has more on the growing list of celebrities rooting for oil country.
Los Lobos surprised Edmontonians with the Oilers' famous victory song La Bamba earlier this week. The band's saxophonist says he's from Philadelphia and now has a new team to cheer for.
Since you're a hockey fan, are you now converted Oilers fan?
Yes, I am.
Edmonton Oilers! Jack Hyman!
Shaquille O'Neal is still cheering for Edmonton forward Zach Hyman, and earlier this week, Golden State Warriors star Brandon Pajemski was seen sporting orange and blue.
Edmonton won!
And even Charles Barkley interrupted his NBA commentating to celebrate the Oilers' series win against Vegas.
I told y'all, the Edmonton Oilers gonna win the Stanley Cup. We're gonna stick it to y'all for trying to raise them damn tariffs on us.
From a political jab to Canada's top politician.
Best hockey team in the world.
Prime Minister Mark Carney posting on X after the big series win, he never doubted his hometown team. Last year, Jaleel White, who played Steve Urkel, showed his love for the Oilers, and so did a well-known comedian.
Yeah, that's right. It's me, Tim Meadows, and I'm an Oilers fan.
30 years ago, Boyz II Men singer Sean Stockman did not shy away from his hockey team crush. Director-actor Kevin Smith is also a longtime fan.
Shoot! Shoot! Shoot!
And so is Edmonton soccer superstar Alphonso Davies. And while some of Edmonton's most famous and favorite superfans have come and gone, their spirit and love of the Oilers continues. And will likely bring back these Oilers fans if there's a final reason to celebrate.
If there's a way, we will definitely be here.
Nicole Lampa, CTV News, Edmonton.
All right, now that is a fan base. And that is our newscast for this Friday. Thank you for watching. I will be here tonight with CTV National News at 11. I hope you can join us. And for ongoing coverage of Canada's top stories, tune into CTV News Channel. I'm Heather Butts. Your local news starts right now.